After holding a 15-point lead in the fourth quarter and a 16-point lead overall for the game, the 76ers had to fight back at home and scratch and claw for their 15th win of the season, walking away with a 109-103 victory over the now 1-14 road record Washington Wizards. And it almost made it too. Had me scared a little bit. And we're here to talk about it with you on the PHLY Sixers Postgame Show presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365 alongside Rich Hoffman. I'm Devon Givens. Bree is with us. Chris hanging out, our social media director, with us here tonight. And I honestly don't really know how to react to this one. And we just like we talked about on Monday, and even today, where we said just get a win in our pregame, and it was one of those, hey, you just need to win by 1 point every game to build up and stack up these wins, as we continually talk about here for the 76ers. But sometimes they are just, it's always how I used to like to say on the radio. Rich, you know I say it here. I've said it with you. I've said it with Bree and Kyle and Derek. We'll talk to them a little bit later. And Chris as well. I've said it with you. It's how it happened. And this one is one of those where it was, all right, the Wizards are going to fight back and they're going to do those things. But they were also on the second night of a back-to-back where they got blown out. And you had them right where you wanted them in the first half, but you could not put them away. You did not extend the lead far enough to do what you needed to do. And as much as we preach to all of you, hey, just get a win. We'll dissect it as it happens and address it in the moment. This, to me, Rich, is one of those dissect it in the moments, even though it was a win and you needed to pick up that 15, go 4-1 in that five-game stretch. Well, guess what? This one was ugly. And as much as the Andy Reid soundbite always goes around, hey, just enjoy the win, man. Yeah. This is not one of them where I feel like you sit there and preach that to anyone of just enjoy the win, man.
They did what we asked. They did win the game, and we have talked at different points of this season so far that they just need to get results. But yeah, that one was tough. Winona said in the chat that she hopes that they're not proud. I saw a funny tweet from Mike at MHC76 on Twitter. He basically was like, do not play the song. No clapping your hands, back to the locker room in silence. And yeah,
with your head down.
It did feel,
don't even hold your head up. No chin up. No.
It did feel like one of those nights. What were they down? 3 points at the end of that game?
Yes,
with like
Rich.
A few minutes left?
Yes. They had a 15-point lead in the fourth quarter, and they were down by 3 with under a minute to play.
Yeah. It was way too close for comfort. Obviously, the spread was, 11? So they did not cover that. I mean, again, they're up 14 points heading into the fourth quarter, and it just got really dicey. But I'm going to say, thank God for Guerschon Yabusele. Devon, this team is 15-20 right now. If they did not have the Olympics this year, let's just say the Olympics was this upcoming summer, and France was about to host for whatever reason, the Sixers would not be 15-20. He has been one of their best players. Mm-hmm. And, he's playing out of position, forced to protect the rim. He's probably playing in his best position offensively, but defensively, he's playing out of position. And the guy just makes winning plays down the stretch. You got Maxey doing, have you seen Maxey was doing the celebration in the post game? He was doing the Yabu celebration. I guess that's what they do for Yabu.
He was the only one that deserved to do it.
Yeah, he was the one who could have been clapping his hands and dancing off the court.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, for the rest of this team, that was a rough watch. But Yabu, he absolutely saves them down the stretch with 2 rim protection plays, including the block on his countryman. I think Allah had a good line on the broadcast, some France on France crime right there. Blocking Koulibaly, nice save by Maxey, and then the Sixers win that game. So I guess like before,
Eric Gordon split a pair of free throws though after directly after that those free throws were Eric Gordon's free throws, and he split those two. By the
And
way,
who got the rebound? I will give credit where it's due because we do criticize the broadcast a decent amount.
Yeah.
Kate has been all over this the entire year. Yabusele is unbelievable at rebounding missed free throws by his own team.
Yeah.
And that last one was a little weird. Like Kuzma just kind of space cadetted it and volleyballed it out of bounds. But Yabu was the one going after that board. And, as you often point out, Yabusele has a lot of chances to get rebounds on those boards. But I feel like it's like the fourth or fifth time this year where they're missing critical free throws down the stretch, but they're also getting the offensive rebound somehow. And that's him. I mean, it was, look, Guerschon Yabusele for a lot of this game was the Sixers' best player. I'm going to read the stats right now.
21, 9.
21.
Did he have 7?
He had 21 points on 6 of 11 field goals, 5 of 7 from beyond the 3-point line, 4 of 4 from the free throw line. He was the one who actually made his free throws tonight.
Yeah.
It's not always the case. 8 boards, 3 assists, 1 steal, and 2 blocks, including the one big one. Man, he was great.
The game-saving block, essentially, on Koulibaly.
If you had 5 Guerschon Yabuseles out there, not exactly 5 Guerschon Yabuseles, like you need somebody who can dribble the ball a little bit better, but 5 guys who are doing their job at his level, that's a 15 to 20 point win from jump. But they didn't get that, and so it got really nervous down the stretch, and they get the win. But I do think even in that very unconvincing, very kind of type of win, it is worth pointing out that Guerschon Yabusele has been awesome.
So if you ever, when we were talking about the Christmas movies and all that stuff, and I mentioned how Friday After Next is my favorite one of all the Fridays of the series, controversial as it may be, I'm not the only one. Next Friday, though, the second one was always this great clip from the character Pinky, while he was fighting Ice Cube, and he said, "Had me scared, man." That's how the Washington Wizards had me at the end with the Philadelphia 76ers. We haven't even talked about the Maxey piece because I don't even really know how to react to his game again tonight, even though he had a game-high 29 points. We'll talk about him a little bit later. But this one had a lot of Rich, when we were putting together our thumbnail photo, and Bree put that together, and we were just putting together how to say it, and you said disaster averted. We were also just basically like a wipe the sweat off your brow kind of, whew. Man, again, had me scared there for a second, but we probably would have went off had they lost that basketball game.
Absolutely.
We would have gone off, and this would have been
we're human beings, right?
Yes, a totally different post-game show.
1 or 2 shots goes a different way. Yeah, we're reacting to this
when Corey
differently.
Kispert hit that 3 to take the lead, we're like, all right, this is it.
We're about to torch
It's about to happen. Yeah, it's going down tonight on the post-game show. Everybody be ready because that was what it was going to be. But to your point, to talk about the positive of Yabusele, he was fantastic again.
He was awesome.
You can argue when we talk about, and we often do this, and you credit the Flyers team too for their, they did some grades for the first half of the season, essentially for, through the certain number of games for the Flyers so far. And while we're not doing that, it's just more of, if we had to give out an MVP for the first 35 games of the season, as good as Tyrese Maxey has been, and we have him in the lower part of our list, maybe as an all-star reserve, Tyrese Maxey, yes. Paul George, we know, and Joel Embiid, no. Yabusele is probably right there in the top 2, top 3 of the best player, most consistent, most important, most reliable player that this team has had through the 35 games of the season, because
he's been one of their best players.
Being put in the wrong position at the center spot, starting at the center spot, primary minutes as a backup 5 because Andre Drummond can't be there or Joel Embiid cannot be there. We had concerns about his outside shooting. He has proven that to be not a concern. Look, the other day against Phoenix, he made those shots early, but then Phoenix dared him to continue to do it. And even though he was taking those shots and missing them, those were good shots because he has already proven to us that he can make those shots. And tonight, they needed everything that he gave them, 6 for 11, 5 threes, on 7 attempts. He finished with 21, which is one short of his career high, which is what Chris was talking about. His career high was 22 points that he had earlier in the season. He finished with 21 tonight. He grabbed 8 rebounds. And again, Jonas Valanciunas had 14 boards. That's not an easy guy to try to box out and get your rebound.
He gave up a lot of boards against Valanciunas.
And you can't even blame him.
That was the push and pull, right? You have that big guy leaning on you the entire night. You're fighting for dear life. But on the other end, you spread them out and you get good shots for yourself and your teammates.
Exactly. So he was just fantastic for all that has been asked of Yabusele this season. And Gene says it right there. He has been the MVP the entire time this season through the 35 games that they have played. Everybody else might differ, but he has been that important to this basketball team. As much as I remember the one day I said, he has been in the league before this season, but I want to create something for him to be available to play in the Rising Stars, just for him to be able to be back in that game, because he's not going to win Most Improved Player. He's not going to be eligible to play in the All-Star game because he's just not good enough for what that ask of. But for him, he has just been that good, and they lose this game probably big time tonight if he doesn't do what he does in that first half and, of course, throughout the remainder of the game.
And I just keep coming back to, thank God he had that dunk against LeBron in the Olympics that made Daryl probably look up from his phone and say, whoa, can we get this guy? What about bringing this guy back to America, right?
Not all the other good things that he was doing throughout the entire tournament, but that one particular play. But, hey, you take it.
Yeah,
you take it.
Daryl might have been watching that stuff, too. Anyway, I think the way I would put it with him being the MVP is that when you go back to the beginning of the year and what we expected from everybody, no, is he the best player on the team? No, when Joel plays, he is the best player on the team. But compared to expectations, now that we are 35 games into the season, who has exceeded expectations the most? If average expectations would be a C, like you have guys like Paul George and Joel and Tyrese who are probably underwater with that. Instead of having a C+, they're in the C, the D-, whatever, maybe an F if you are a tough grader.
And you probably give him Yabusele an A flat out, just a flat out A.
A+,
no minus.
If you can.
And if you don't want to go plus, you give him an A, and all of that is good.
So yeah, he has given them more than anybody could have expected, and he's just been a pleasure to watch. I really enjoy him. Like, you can tell his teammates enjoy him too, right? Tyrese is doing this. Joel was doing it with him the other night. Like his tweets are always hilarious. He just seems like he's extremely grateful to be playing back in the NBA. He's going to be even more grateful. What do you think he's looking at this offseason if he keeps this up, man?
I don't know. I mean, the mid-level is what?
Yeah.
It's over about 5. Is it 5.8, somewhere around there? Maybe a little bit more for the mid-level?
I think he's going to get more than like the taxpayer mid-level.
Yeah. So
I think he might get like the big mid-level.
You think he gets 3 to 4? You get 3 or 4 years. I think he gets 3 years, but it's probably around that 21 to 26 million.
I think if he keeps this up, he's going to be making 8 figures next year, which the Sixers aren't going to be able to afford, as Derek has talked about.
It's like 3 for 24.
But what a great story.
Yeah.
No, I think he's making more than that.
Okay.
I do.
3 for 30.
Now, he's got to keep it up, right?
Sure.
He's got to continue.
There's no reason to believe that he won't, though, because he is in their top 6 of the rotation, top 7 of their rotation, and it's not even close. So unless he just takes a nosedive, which he did have one stretch where he wasn't good, but that was for like 2-3 games, Rich. Everything else he has been very, very consistent throughout the season, which is why, again, he is an A+ MVP of this team all season long. He has been that good for this basketball team, and they do not win this game tonight if not for his performance tonight of 21-8 and battling, again, that big dude and Jonas Valanciunas to secure those rebounds the way that he did. He had 4 offensive rebounds, giving them chances. So a credit to him, man. As much as I'm ticked off about this win and I'm trying to control myself here, they won. Like you said, we asked for it. They won. But the positive, of course, is how he played. He was really, really good.
Well, and I mean, part of it too, Devon, is that, whether he's in the starting lineup or on the bench, part of the reason when you have Joel Embiid and Paul George out and why this is still a close game against the Wizards, obviously you're missing 2 of your best players.
Mm-hmm.
But man, the Sixers bench, they just get drilled. I'm looking at the Wizards bench right now, and you have Kispert goes for 23. Jared Butler was pretending he was playing back in the Big 12 again on that awesome Baylor team. He goes for 26. Champagny and Guerschon gives them good minutes. And the Sixers have Jeff Dowtin and Reggie Jackson
and Ricky.
And Ricky. Nice dunk by Ricky, but the rest of the game, nice three.
Yeah.
Ricky led them in scoring off the bench. Anyway,
what do you have,
they're playing a lot of guys who should not be playing. And even a team like the Wizards, who are struggling, get much better contribution. So they needed this from Yabu. And I just hope that these guys can get healthy for the rest of the year so he can slot into the proper role. He feels like a playoff guy, man. He feels like a guy that if they had him last year against the Knicks and he was playing the 4 and the Knicks were crashing the glass like crazy, he would have helped.
He's the one that's diving on the floor for that loose ball.
Totally, right? He would have helped against Atlanta a few years ago. Obviously, they're playing Furkan Korkmaz in that series, right? It just feels like a guy they could have used for a lot of these failed playoff runs through the years.
Game 6 against Boston.
Sure, absolutely. They've had a lot of kind of very flawed bench players throughout the years. And I'm not saying Yabu is the complete bench player or perfect by any means, but he seems like a guy that you can win with in the playoffs. And I just want to see him get a chance to prove that for the Sixers in possibly his only year this year. Because, I just wish he played on those teams in past years. Because right now he's playing on a team that struggles to beat the Wizards without him. That's where we are.
Yep. And look, and you're probably right, and a lot of people in the chat are discussing the exact same thing, probably going to leave. And good for him, right, to go and cash out and taking a chance on himself, once again gambling to come back after so many years overseas. But he has ingratiated himself with this fan base, with the Sixers fan base, not only locally, but around the country and wherever you are. Everyone universally likes that guy. He leaves, he is good to everybody. He has right? He's not one of them that's coming back and he's getting booed. He's coming back and he's getting a standing ovation for the first time that he comes back. After that, you see how it goes. They'll like him and they'll say, see, this is why you had to keep him and find a way to keep him. But this guy is going to be the one that is good to go with the Sixer fan base, even though he might leave in free agency. All right, we'll talk about so much more. We got to get to Tyrese Maxey, Kelly Oubre, everybody. The bench, as Rich
the refs down
pointed
the stretch.
out, the refs.
Wow,
interesting
what was going
stuff
on
there. And just to be clear before we get to the refs, Sixers were up by 16. That's on them.
We're just going to laugh at the individual
the points
calls, though.
that we get to with the officials, oh boy, those were interesting. We'll get to it all right here. PHLY Sixers Postgame Show presented by Bet365. Just crazy. All right, look, I'll start it off here with Bet365 because I just want to keep talking in general. And I got to tell you that, my man, our guy, Adam Bonus let me down in my selections. He had 3 boards. The number was over 4.5. Shame on me, of course, for that. Eric Gordon, he stepped up for me right away and got 2 threes that I needed, courtesy of Bet365, of course. And Bet365, our presenting sponsor, they have been fantastic. Place your wagers there, as always, because they are that good. They are that good to you. They are that good to us. Over 90 million users worldwide. Live streams of 780,000 events each year. Live in-game betting that they have pioneered for all the sports. So if you're looking at a certain situation and you're saying, you know what? Yabusele has about 3 boards, and I think he might get 8. Let me go right in here live into Bet365 on my app, like I do here on my phone. And once you do, you'll see an option to make sure you place that bet that Yabusele live in-game betting is going to get that 8 boards, and Tyrese Maxey is going to have a much better second half than he did the first and eclipse that 20-point mark as he did. Now, right now, if you're a new customer and you want to jump in on the experience of Bet365, the new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Using the code PHLY365 when you sign up, deposit $10 and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in those bonus bets. And bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. And the NFL playoffs are about to get underway. So if you're feeling good about your local team and you have a good read on the other games as well throughout the playoffs, Bet365 is the place for you. So Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 plus and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
And Devon, let's talk about Mint Mobile now. With big wireless...
They're back.
They're back. With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying, it magically skyrockets. And with Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month, when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. $15 a month. So say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. And to get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/Sixers. That's right, mintmobile.com/Sixers. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month, again, at mintmobile.com/Sixers. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on the first 3-month plan only. Speed slower, above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers Postgame Show presented by Bet365. Yeah, man. Adam Bonus let me down.
He did.
Adam Bonus let me down.
Let's get into my 3 things because it's really only one thing, and I feel like we've already talked about it. Number 1, phew. Seriously.
Yeah. Whew.
That's
Phew.
number 1.
Whew.
Number 2, Guerschon Yabusele. We just spent 20 minutes talking about him.
Yeah.
The player of the game saved them from a really embarrassing loss tonight. And number 3, same thing. Phew.
Whew.
Whew.
Hey.
Could have been a tough one.
Whew. Hey. Had it sweating in here.
All right, I think we got to talk about Maxey now.
Had me scared. I'm telling you, man, you had me scared. All right, Tyrese Maxey, you mentioned it. We need to talk about him. He finished with a game-high 29 points. He had 8 in the first half, so, of course, he did his part in the second half to get to that 29. Had the layup to put them back up front late in that final minute of play for the 76ers. Also had, tonight, 6 assists. 3 for 14 from beyond, 11 for 27. What was you put it at 26 and a half. I had it at 24 and a half.
I had it a little higher. I had
28.
it at like 28, 29. Now
27.
I thought he was going to
He
shoot a little better.
30 more, 10 more. But I don't know what he was doing tonight. I really don't.
The first half, in which I believe he shot 3 of 13 from the field, 1 of 10 from the 3-point line. And again, Devon, we talked about this in the pregame. This is against not some great defense. And I get it. He's not playing with great players, but he's playing against bad players. He's playing against the single worst defense in the league. And it just felt like it's been the case a lot of the time without Embiid so far this year. It's just that he really struggles to create good shots for both himself and his teammates. Like, I think I remember a couple years ago when Joel Embiid, and this was when Tyrese Maxey was absolutely on fire. This is when James Harden was on the team. Joel Embiid was setting him up with all these open shots. When Tyrese Maxey is getting catch and shoot corner threes, catch and shoot wing threes, he's an unbelievable shooter.
Count it. Automatic.
He's great. I think we saw last year he's very good off the dribble handoff as well. If he can get into a flow with it with Joel Embiid. Man, he is just completely lost when he has to create those shots by himself now. I mean, some of these step backs or side steps, he's like stepping just 10 feet away and he's completely off balance.
Yes.
And it just feels like a lot of no-hopers right now. And that's a bummer, right? You would think in year 5, or you would hope in year 5, that he would be able to more consistently create good shots for himself. And it hasn't happened. I mean, Koulibaly was on him tonight. That's a long, rangy kid, but it's a kid. It's a guy that Eric Gordon blew by in the first quarter as well.
Did. Yeah.
And it just felt like he really struggles to get into the flow of the game. Then he starts forcing some shots. I will give him credit. Like, he did avert disaster down the stretch of this game. But obviously, like, the game would have been out of hand if he had played to the expectation level for 48 minutes. And I think that's fair to say. I don't know. He has taken a step back, it feels like, in some ways this year, but it's mostly when he plays without Joel Embiid and Paul George. Unfortunately, he's playing without Joel Embiid and Paul George, at least one of them, like 3 out of 4 nights at this point. It's tough. Watching him try to create offense, watching him be the focal point for the offense, it's just not going well right now.
No, and I was looking at one as you were talking, listening to you, of course, but reading one of the points here that Cannoli had made, where he said that put him in the game with, at one point he had Jackson, Bona, Doughton, and Edwards, and something like that. You can't stick one starter with him. You know what I mean? Yeah, but when he started the game with those starters, trying to feel a game out, Cannoli, he struggled. And I don't know what he was doing. At first, he looked complacent. He looked passive, like we want him to set up his teammates, as Rich is discussing. But there were also opportunities that we thought he drove to the basket and didn't take shots that we normally see him take and make, putting that pressure on the defense that eventually opens up things for him and his teammates there a little bit later, making passes that made his teammate take a tougher shot, essentially, early on in the game. Again, 3 for 13, 1 for 10. You start 0 for 0. You get the 3 for 13. You only lose your confidence when you miss shots. But as Rich is pointing out, sidestep, fading, off-balance threes
The off the
from
dribble
32 feet away from the basket.
Not going well.
Right. While he gets to the basket and he wants that call from the official, he wasn't complaining as much, but he still complained when he doesn't feel like he's getting the call. I get it. Also, we have had a number of Sixer fans, Maxey supporters and defenders, if you will, when we've been critical of him, talking about how many minutes he has played. We don't disagree with you at all. Maybe he was coasting tonight, trying to give him a little bit of, hey, I see what you're doing. This is a 1-win team on the road, a 6-win team overall. You're trying to pace yourself tonight because of the minutes that you've played overall, but this team may not win if you do not play this game tonight. And we did see that they would not have won this game if not for his effort in the second half to get to his 29 points for this basketball team. However, you can still do that by maybe getting that 16 in the first half, where you do put them away early, where instead of an 11-point lead, you have a 19-point lead at the half. And then in the third quarter, when he did turn it up and score 13 points in that third frame, that he also turns it up just enough where you put enough on them, where now it's a 27-point lead and you're probably going into that fourth quarter with a 20-point lead. And if things do become a disaster because of the reserves that are in there giving up and blowing that lead to the Wizards, he has to come in, put out the fire, and go back to the bench with about 7 minutes remaining and rest tonight to get ready for a New Orleans Pelicans team that will come here with much better talent, especially after they're starting to get some of their players back into the lineup. So that's where the issue was for me with Maxey tonight. I just didn't know what he was doing tonight. I didn't know if he was trying to pace himself and blow this team out early and get himself a little bit of rest because of the minutes that are now on his shoulders throughout the season. Understood. But there's a way of doing that also by going nuts in the first half because they can't defend you, putting them away in the third quarter, and then resting as much as possible in the fourth. So this was one of those, I don't know what you're doing kind of games. This does, to me, the Maxey that we have seen that led to his first All-Star appearance last season, one that I thought he was going to follow up, Rich, with his second consecutive All-Star performance in year number 5. I don't think that's going to happen. Before we even get to our All-Star predictions in February, before we even get there, I don't think that's going to happen,
No,
at least as of right now.
No,
not on this team right now. I am just looking at him and saying, this is not the same type of player that I'm used to seeing. And even before you say Devon, Paul George, and Joel Embiid have been out the lineup, and Rich, you just said it.
They've been out.
They were out of the lineup last year too. And even though he could not carry them during that, 30-game stretch, he was still good enough where I felt, hey, they have a chance because of him. Now I don't know what they're getting on those nights. I'm still expecting him to have much better performances, but then he shows me what he is showing me, and I'm coming away a little bit disappointed with what I've been seeing.
I mean, the story of this season is that Paul and Joel in particular, they just don't really play all that much. It's like Joel doesn't play all that much. Paul is doesn't play all that much, but is bad when he plays, just particularly bad offensively. And Tyrese plays, I know he had a little stretch where he missed games. He is the one who was out there the most, but he's really struggling with this group of players, but also like by himself, like trying to create shots and trying to run an offense. Like I'll tell you, that fourth quarter, he was better individually in that fourth quarter. And I want to give him credit. That was a really nice move to go by Kispert, because it kind of like he's dribbling that ball up in sort of delayed transition. It's unclear if the C's are going to part there. He sees that the way the defense is moving, it's him against Kispert in a small driving lane. And he says, okay, I can go by him and get an easy one. And he does it. And that ends up being the go-ahead bucket. They win the game. Good job there. He had another one where he got an N1, I believe, on Kispert and somebody else. But it's hard for him. His size is a big limitation. And I'll tell you, I thought the game completely changed in the fourth quarter, and this is not entirely his fault. I think Nick Nurse deserves a little bit of blame for not getting them organized in this way. Richaun Holmes, in particular, not the greatest defender in the world, but like a fast, kind of mobile type guy. They started blitzing the pick and roll, and the Sixers had nothing for that. You know, you have the ball, you have Caleb Martin catching the ball at the free throw line, having nowhere to go with it. You have Maxey whipping the ball like over his head to Eric Gordon, 45 feet from the hoop, not creating an advantage at all. And the Sixers just did not do a good job with those traps. But like if they trap Paul George, he can actually see over the defense and make that first pass. So the Sixers can get open shots. Maxey didn't do that. Now I think that's a little bit the team and a little bit of Maxey, but he struggled a little bit. Now he was much better as a scorer in the second half, like you said, 13 points in the third quarter, made some timely buckets down the stretch. But yeah, the way he has sort of felled out the game hasn't been great. Like it doesn't seem like he knows exactly what to do when he is the quote unquote man. He also, by the way, this is another little pet peeve of mine. He needs to stop complaining about these calls so much. Like it's just like really unpleasant to watch.
It's not going to get you the call.
And just like him complaining to the refs as the other team is pushing the ball down the court. Like it's just, I don't know. I don't love it.
No, I don't. The play that he made, that layup, you're right, absolutely, with giving them the lead over past Kispert, understanding, KYP, knowing who was right in front of you, knowing that personnel. The problem I had with that one, though, before that, he had the same thing, and it was a bad idea of what he did of driving to the basket. That resulted in a miss, and he did follow it up, and I wasn't as confident that he was going to go to the basket and make that one because of the play right before that when Kispert was on him again, and he didn't make a good decision there. So that's just what it's been. And again, it's not all him. Like you said, Rich, it's not all him. But
he's been put in a bad situation.
He's been put in a bad situation, but we've also...
But he hasn't played great in that bad situation.
That's right. All. Yeah, and he's played without Embiid before. We know what it looks like. And it's not... Forget about James Harden wasn't here last season. It was still 12 with him and a bunch of other guys. And he looked much better.
Yeah.
And I think... I can't remember who it was. I was just looking at it. I think it was AC Phillips said, last year he was destroying these bad teams. They might have lost, but he was destroying those bad teams like this Washington Wizards group. That's not the case this season. And the last 10 games, he's averaging like 26, something like that. But it just doesn't feel like the Tyrese Maxey experience that we were ready for, even when Embiid was out of the game. And yes, him and Paul George together. He and Joel together when Paul George can't play. And the trio, all three of them out there together. When he is the one, though, as we discussed last season, there are some struggles. There are some struggles with him. And someone else also pointed out the roster construction around a smaller guard like Tyrese Maxey. It's not ideal right now because of who's not out there. It's really about all three of them, mainly Embiid, but all three of them together with the roster construction. When Tyrese Maxey's out there, it's not the perfect roster construction. No, it's not. Bad. It's absolutely not. That's not his fault. That's why he has to, as Aaron says, stop pressing. As you pointed out, be a little bit more under control with what is going on. The frustration can come when you don't make your shots. The frustration can come when you miss your shots and you feel like you've been fouled. Don't exacerbate the problem by, allowing your confidence to wane because of all of those things just coming into one with that frustration where you're taking yourself away from being who you are. And we always talk about, and he's human, so things can change. But he always plays to his strengths, plays under control. The smile on his face, we know.
I like that he had the smile on his face at the end of the game.
For Yabusele.
I like that.
100%.
I appreciate it.
It wasn't there at all during the game, and he just didn't seem like himself. So he's human, so he's allowed. And look, whenever they're healthy and they're all there together, he's probably going to bounce back, and we're like, man, if they were out there with him, this team would be.
We have plenty of evidence.
12,
much,
14
much
games over 500, and we be talking about him again at the lower list, maybe pushing him up in the middle list for the guards in the All-Star game as a reserve, just not so far this season, and it's a shame because he's better than that. He's better than that. It's not his fault. Some things you have to take the blame for yourself because you are the performer, you are the player. Some of the other stuff is out of his control with his teammates missing games, the construction around him when they are not in the game. That's not completely on him. But we have seen a sample size of him without him being on the floor with that collection of talent or lack thereof and still be a much better player than we're seeing.
I think it's fair to be a little bit disappointed in that he's not going to succeed. Like, he's not going to succeed in the way he would succeed when everybody is healthy. He's not going to succeed in the way, when Joel is spoon feeding him some good looks on that 2-man game. But yeah, I mean, like, you would like it if he had one of those 50-point games that we saw last year against Utah. And some of it is just like, he's just not making shots off the dribble. Like, some of it is, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the extra weight or, whatever it is, he's just having bad luck. He's not getting the same looks if he's just at the top of the scouting report, whatever it is. He's just not making the same open shots. And it's okay. He needs Joel. He needs Joel in particular. Get him back. You'll get a better Tyrese Maxey. And look, they still won the game tonight, and he still made some good plays down the stretch to help them win. Absolutely. I mean, it was him and Yabu who basically got him down the stretch to get the win.
All right, let's take a quick break. Come back. We'll check in with the guys from the arena. This is the PHLY Sixers Postgame Show. Sixers win 109-103 in a nail-biter. Don't let the scoreboard fool you. This was a nail-biter, 109-103, presented by Bet365.
And Devon, let's talk about our friends at Ace Hardware Home Services. Got a leaky pipe? At Ace Hardware Home Services, they are around the block with everything you need to fix it, including the person to do the fixing. Got an air conditioning issue? They got you. Got a faucet that you said you'd fix last fall? They got that person too. Because now they're not just the helpful hardware folks, they're also the helpful home service and repair folks. From plumbing to heating and cooling, they've got the trusted pros to keep your home humming all year long. Ace Hardware Home Services. They are bringing the helpful home, the helpful you love, from the store now to your front door. Ace brings experience. They are local plumbers and techs that handle everything from repairs and seasonal maintenance to installations and upgrades. They bring understanding. They listen to your goals, and the job is not completed until you, the customer, are satisfied. And they bring helpful to your home so you can spend more of your time on the projects that really matter to you. So what do you need to do? Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at www.acehardwarehomeservices.com. Pretty easy to remember to get started on your next project.
And I have to tell you about our good friends from Glatt Hair Restoration. Now the Glatt Hair Restoration by Morgenstern Medical, as Morgenstern, Dr. Morgenstern and Glatt's company teaming up together to keep this great company going forward. And if you've listened to our friend John Marks, of course, the Philly Show, to start things off on the PHLY network every day at 8 a.m., John has talked about it and spearheaded the marketing campaign on about Morgenstern and Glatt and the Glatt Hair Restoration and how great it has been, and the same peerless approach to the care, same expert team, unmatched Glatt system, state-of-the-art location, and the same stellar results even under the new name. Each member of this exceptionally trained team brings 30-plus years of industry experience. Hair restoration is all they do. So if you're pulling your hair out after watching your basketball team and you want to get that restored, you got to go to our good friends at Glatt Hair Restoration and, of course, Dr. Morgenstern. Here's what you get: laser light therapy, non-invasive TED treatments, PRP, and stem cell restoration and hair restoration surgery. Each patient receives a complimentary one-on-one consultation to pinpoint the best course of treatment. So bald is now optional, but if you want to improve your look and how you feel yourself, Glatt Hair has the right treatment for you. Regain your confidence. Visit glatthairmctr.com or call 610-980-4000 to get started. Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers postgame show. Sixers win 109-103 against a nail-biter, again, against the Washington Wizards, the worst team in the NBA. Sixers are now 15-20. Let's head to the arena, check in with the guys. Joining us here live from the center, Kyle Neubeck, Jared Butler as well with us. Right? Yeah.
Show him.
Yeah. Where's the hand?
No, Derek. Derek's
no,
sitting.
no,
Derek is sitting.
Little gladiator.
Oh, man. He said
Derek is sitting in the front row with a crumpled up box score paper that he's going to throw at me at some point that I will probably have to dodge or smack down or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, we look forward to that.
Well, crumbling up that box score is probably the right idea, Kyle, after this one. Didn't expect it to be the way that it was. They got the win, and we started off, Kyle, Rich and I, saying that we always talk about, especially where they are right now in the season, just get the win. Unfortunately, tonight, the way they got the win kind of changed that, for me at least, of how they won this one. How was it for you sitting there watching this one play out in real time, blowing a 16-point lead in the fourth quarter?
Oh, I mean, it's one of the worst feeling wins you could possibly have, right? And I understand, look, the Sixers were banged up too. There's no Joel, there's no PG, down a couple role players, whatever. But that collection of players the Wizards had on the floor and their collective execution skills, for you to be in a dogfight with that team with, a minute left, they're losing the game with, a minute 20, minute 18, whatever that was, when Kuzma looks like Jason Avant going over the middle, carrying the ball from midcourt to the free throw line with no dribble. It was, either way, it was terrible. And look, I don't know how much you guys have dived into Tyrese's night, but a lot of it just comes down to the type of night he had. You give him credit for battling back and making the plays down the stretch that they needed. But good God, man. I mean, he finished 3 for 14 from three. A lot of those are just wide open looks, and he conceded that. Nurse conceded the same, talking about the game. And you still say, yeah, they got the win, and that's what matters. But, I think you see a lot of the flaws in his game as an initiator on nights like tonight, and in the first half specifically, right? I think the things that are jumping out at me with him right now, one, I don't think he can drive left. I think that's become abundantly clear. I think when he goes left, he almost always wants to get to his step back, and I think teams are playing it that way, right? And so when he has to beat a guy and then there's somebody waiting for him at the rim, he just has no chance because he can only go in one direction, and teams are funneling him exactly where they want to go. So, while I give him credit for eventually getting there, I think that's a big problem for him. And if he's not able to use the gravity of someone like Joel, or tonight, him and Yabusele obviously have this developing chemistry. I think they look really good in the pick and pop stuff. He's got the timing down and the placement on the behind the back passes to him. But the reason it wasn't a bigger, easier win was because he didn't get his work done early, and he's forced to be Superman late. So to me, that's the story of the game right there. I'm glad he was able to figure it out at the end, but still a lot he could do better to make that a laugher rather than, tightly contested game with Jared Butler.
I mean, Jared Butler looked like he could play a lot of minutes for the Sixers tonight. I can't say I'm watching him like every night, but he was very good in that game tonight. Kyle, somebody else who was very good tonight was our guy Yabu. I think he was probably the biggest reason that the Sixers won. I feel like we've spent a lot of the winning post-game pods talking about Yabu making a serious contribution, but the guy's been very good, man.
Yeah, and very good despite playing out of position, right? Like he's had to be not a full-time center, but he's moonlighting as a center, certainly. And I think tonight was a great example of the push-pull, right? Where you're playing Valanciunas and it's comical watching Valanciunas offensive rebound, especially against this team, right? Where, bless you, by the way. Sorry, anyway, here at the arena. So Valanciunas is just like one hand bear clawing these offensive rebounds because no one's even close to as big as he is. And they're living on these putbacks and offensive rebounds. And that's a big sore spot that is in part because Yabusele's out there. But then on the other end of the floor, the Wizards are just cooked because Valanciunas is a drop big and Yabu just pick and popped, and just shot him out of that coverage to the point that they didn't really play Valanciunas in the most important minutes of that game, right? Despite the fact that he was creating some advantages for them near the rim. So I enjoy everything that Yabu has brought to the table. Look, we have people sneezing, Derek throwing paper airplanes. This is pure chaos here. I really enjoy Yabu's approach in that it doesn't matter what type of player he's up against. It doesn't matter what position he's playing. He'll lose some possessions. He'll get out battled. He might not make every play, but he just keeps coming and keeps working, and he hits the glass, and he makes that great block on fellow Frenchman Koulibaly at the end of that game. So, I mean, just the human Swiss Army knife for this team. Can't say enough about him for what he's done this year.
Yeah, and Kyle, yesterday we were debating on what the starting lineup would be with Paul George now out of the lineup and the other four that we knew would be in there. And Eric Gordon got the call and at least started things off well with the 8 early points. He ended up with a 15 overall knockdown and some free throws at the end. Also split a pair there at the end to try to secure the game. But just his play tonight, what he did, he had some good defensive moments, but he also had some looking like Eric Gordon type of moments out there as well.
Yeah, I would say the big thing is just he's got to make shots, right? That really is, and it has to do a little more on a night like tonight, right? A little more attacking of closeouts and trying to drive. And he had a nice driving kick for I believe it was a Yabu 3 at one point out of the corner. That was a nice play by him. We've seen a little bit of that at in fits and starts throughout the season. So as long as that guy hits threes, he can play and be in the lineup. In fact, I'd rather see him on the floor rather than these double Lowry Jackson lineups when those guys have been healthy, right? Like, because if you're asking me to choose between the two small point guards and a guy who is a comfortable catch and shoot guy out to like 30 feet, I'll take Gordon, right? Like, you got to live with some nonsense in order to play him, but the options aren't great there. And you can minimize what he has to do on this team, at least when they're healthy. He should be a guy that can play successfully off of Joel Embiid because Joel's going to get doubled at the nail. Ball's going to swing around the floor. And Eric Gordon might lack a few things, but it is not confidence and it is not shooting range. So this was a really simple for me. He made shots, got more minutes. When he doesn't make them, you stick him on the bench and say, well, we can try again next game, right? So good night by him. Pretty simple.
I think at the very least that trip to the dentist worked out pretty well. So speaking of lineups, Kyle,
I wrote waiting for Kyle to say something about the dentist and the wisdom teeth.
Oh, I
just
think
the two.
You said it. It goes down.
He got it done on the Oregon Trail with
Yes.
Glenn Robinson III.
And Eric Gordon going to the dentist is another chapter in Sixers folklore at this point. I did write down this lineup at one point, Kyle. What did you think of this one? Reggie Jackson, Jeff Doughton, Caleb Martin, Ricky Council, Adam Bonus. It's a pretty good one.
I'm glad you're paying homage to our guy Adam Bonus.
That's all I call him.
Well, so I'll use that to circle back to the Maxey stuff. The one reason I'm willing to give him some grace for what I feel has been, poor shot selection, poor decision making is, are you seeing the guys he's out there with? Like,
playing,
some of these lineups that they're putting together on the floor. I mean, you go down the list, they're asking Justin Edwards to play real minutes. Justin Edwards didn't have a good season at Kentucky in college, right? Like, that's a guy you're asking to play NBA rotation minutes right now. And he's been decent lately, right? Nothing really happened for him tonight, but he's at least given them a little bit. But they just are so strapped for NBA players right now. That's what makes it so frustrating to watch someone like Jared Butler, who's on a two-way, come in for Washington and just light it up. And these guys have an open roster spot. Like, get somebody, right? There's got to be somebody in the world. They don't even necessarily have to be in America. We keep bringing up Lonnie Walker, obviously, plying his trade in Lithuania. There has to be somebody out there who can help this team as a reserve basketball player of some kind, rather than keeping that roster spot open under the guise of flexibility, which is not really a thing. It's inexcusable to me for other teams to have guys on two ways that can come in and make, a real impact on a game. And you're treating a roster spot like it's a sacred thing that you can't touch. It makes no sense to me.
Kyle Newbeck joining us live from the arena after the Sixers 109-103 victory over the Washington Wizards. Before you go, we might as well do this with Kyle here about the officiating, and at least down the stretch with those questionable calls. The Kyle Kuzma one, and what was the other one that we were?
The Guerschon Holmes goaltend.
Yeah, the goaltend that was not called. Those two there. Start with everyone you want. I'd imagine it would be the Kyle Kuzma. Clear.
Oh, I mean, yeah. At least the goaltend, while it was a clear goaltend, at least it's a bang play,
a bang play,
right? Where those go either way a lot, and it's one of those that I think replay really enhances the anger over, because we used to be watching these on through grainy footage, and it's like, oh, I can imagine why you missed that, whatever. The Kuzma one is just inexplicable. You missed that.
It was in the middle of the floor.
That's what exactly. He's alone in the middle of the floor. And again, he looks like a slot receiver, went over the middle, caught it, and it's like, all right, I got to make my move. I'm putting my foot in the ground. I'm planting. I got to cut by Brian Dawkins on the back end. Reed Blankenship's looking for him. Yeah, it was just, the whole thing was ridiculous. And I do think I try to show the officials some grace, because so many of these are, questionable 50-50. Like, okay, what's the interpretation of this rule? There is no interpretation of the rule that says what Kyle Kuzma did was legal. So they got roundly booed. We got some ref you suck chants here at the Wells Fargo Center, which was as rowdy as anybody got in here all night. Yeah, just an interesting game, interesting ending. I'm so glad that they escaped with the win, because it would be, DEFCON probably 1 if they lost that one.
Random point I just want to bring up to Kyle before we let him go. When Kyle and I covered the Sixers for a couple years there, Guerschon Holmes was on the team. And there was a lady who sat behind us in the section. And whenever Guerschon Holmes would do anything good, and Guerschon Holmes did a lot of bad things, but he did a lot of loud good things, like dunk, blocks, all that stuff. The lady behind us in a great Philadelphia accent would yell, "Yeah, Guerschon!" Anyway, I thought of her tonight.
I have not heard her voice in a while. I don't know if she still has her season tickets.
I hope she does. I hope she's doing good.
I actually was talking with somebody tonight before the game, Rich, and I mentioned, when you were here full time and we would always sit before the game on the baseline, we'd always discuss, what's the juice for this game tonight?
Oh yeah.
And I was like, not only is this a zero juice game, you could argue this is a negative juice game. I'm like, the juice is being sucked out of my body before the game even starts. It was so negative juice, baby. So that was,
we got through it.
I'm glad they won the negative juice game.
Oh man. Well, they won the negative juice game and they have win number 15, getting ready for the New Orleans Pelicans on Friday. Kyle, we appreciate you joining us, man. It's negative outside, so be careful driving. Bundle up, of course.
Get home safe. That's from me and Derek. So goodbye.
Let's give Derek the night off.
Yeah. And we'll be back. We'll be back on Friday. Kyle and Derek from the arena, Rich and I and Bree and maybe Chris here on Friday for the Sixers and the Pelicans. So Kyle, enjoy your Thursday off. You and Derek, and we'll talk to you then. Thanks, man. Really appreciate it. Yeah, negative juice game for sure. I mean, we had it in here. We was like, all right.
Bree, do you have the video, the tweet of the Kuzma non-double dribble?
It was in the middle of the floor. facing, like wide open there.
Oh, look at Nick.
Facing. And this tweet is courtesy of
What are
Liberty
you,
Ballers.
stupid?
Oh, man.
Oh, no.
I mean, look at this. All right, play it out, Rich.
Oh, man.
Literally, middle of the floor.
Just picks it up and starts running. That's like what a little kid does. That's like a pity league game
But
move.
look at the official. One right behind him.
Look at the one right behind him.
And then the one to the right is running,
the one right behind him.
sprinting with him.
Devon, the one right behind him, that's Zach Zarba, who might get the crew chief job in a game 7 of the NBA
One
Finals.
of the good ones.
What are we doing,
Yes.
Zach? Come on,
and watch,
Zach.
Look, right over in the right. You see the official right there. Look, he's right there.
Zach, you're running right with the play. What are you doing? He picked up the ball.
And look, the Sixers should not have been in that spot anyway. But when a call is so obvious, make the call. Make the call.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my goodness.
At the time, I was so annoyed with them. I said, this is the type of officiating you should get when you play a close game against the Washington Wizards. But objectively, nobody should get that type of officiating because they blew. I mean, that was a huge call. By the way, did you see the call on Kuzma to go like walk? Did you see that after he made the play?
Yeah.
Oh, my
Yeah.
Lord.
I was such an idiot. I said, Rich, you can review that, can't you? Because it was so bad and so obvious. Here's my thing, as you and Kyle were talking about it. In the NFL, and we don't necessarily love their replay system either. No. But one thing that they do, there was a play I was watching from this weekend, and sometimes once the Eagles is done, I'll go to the red zone and watch the red zone or something like that. There's a play that happened. I don't remember the play. I don't remember the team. I just remember it was a positive play for the team. After the timeout, TV timeout, they came back and they negated the play. No one challenged it. They reversed the call because it was the wrong call. All right, everybody understood it. You move on and you keep going. Secaucus has a lot of televisions, man. A lot of televisions. They can speak to the Sixers score table and get to the officials during that timeout that happened thereafter and say, if it was the Sixers, I would say the same thing.
That was bad, man.
That was bad. That was really bad. So that video, of course, again, on Twitter was courtesy of Liberty Ballers.
Liberty Ballers,
So we appreciate them. And was that one of our WTF moments? That was the WTF moment of the night. Let's just give it to that one. Because
Kyle Kuzma threw some passes that made the WTF moment of the night.
We had
third
that
play
one.
of the game. He went behind the back, no look.
Oh, that was understandable.
It was 8 feet
the
behind
backdoor
the guy.
pass to George? Yeah,
awful.
man. Yeah. And then, can we do another one? Bree had the graphic up, the WTF moment of the night. The Wizards coach calling the timeout.
Oh, yeah.
It was 6/10 of a second. The player called the timeout. Yeah. So the player called the timeout was 6/10 of a second going into the end of the first quarter.
That man was frazzled.
He wasted a timeout. With
0.6 left. They draw up a play. I think they put like 0.8 on the clock.
Yes, they did.
They draw up a play, and they don't even touch the ball.
No.
It gets thrown out of bounds.
Unbelievable stuff,
My man, Brian Keefe, was not happy with that timeout.
Unbelievable stuff. Let's read the super chat that we do have here. Bree had it up, and we'll go to James Alexander. The refs made some bad calls towards the end.
You said it, James.
Yes, they did. That was bad. Yo, Zach Zarba in the back. Understood. Because when the ball disappears like that, that's a call. You call it Zach. But the one running stride for stride with him.
Come on.
To the right of him. Yeah. Seeing the play happen. Where's the basketball? I want to grab this one right here, but we all saw it.
There's somebody, one of the refs was definitely in front of the Sixers bench watching that. Yeah.
Stride for stride with him.
Yeah.
They did not call it. That was unbelievable. Vic says the 6/10 of a second timeout ad break. Throw it out of bounds ad break. Hey, man, do something, because that one was wild. And we do want to say, though,
why don't we do our strong and wrong?
We're going to do strong and wrong, but I want to make sure we let everybody know. We just had Kyle on, Rich's newsletter as well. Make sure you become a diehard member, allphly.com. We got a big time. Number one, Kyle and Derek with their Sixers coverage, Rich writing his Sixers pieces and the newsletter. And but we got a big run about to happen, Rich, with the Eagles for the postseason. And
4 games coming up.
You have Zach, Bo, Fran, Les, you. We got you covered for the Birds. So you want to become a diehard member. I heard Zach on with Rich and Jamie earlier talking about some things that they were going to have. Les Bowen putting together a piece that was going to be up. but you have to be a diehard member to access our website and read that piece, read the story. So make sure you sign up, allphly.com. You get a free t-shirt when you do sign up, and you get some great writing all year long for all the teams right here at allphly.com. All right, let's get to the strong and wrong that Rich was talking about, because we love you, Rick, and you played better tonight.
Yeah, he did.
But Rick, Tyrese Maxey throws the lob, man. I've been on, throw the right lobs, man. Identify your teammates that are running the floor, reward them, make the play easier on yourself. There's no video of it, and I'm disappointed that it's not circulating around social media, because, Rich, that was the perfect lob to Ricky. And he was up there. When they showed the replay, he was up there. He was thinking about what he wanted to do. He wanted to just drop it in. And he did not drop it in.
No, he didn't.
Off the back of the rim.
And then Maxey missed a 3, and I think somebody else missed a 3. Yeah, it was an empty possession that should have been 2 points. Yeah, Rick screwed that up. I will say, though, and we've seen this, I use
Strong and wrong brought to you by no one.
I use the term shot out of a cannon.
Yeah.
I would love to see Rick run the 100 meters. He can fly, man.
Yeah.
That one dunk he had.
Chris was like, man, he got down there fast.
That was unbelievable. He was like the Wizards were
and
like
he was hype.
moving.
He was hype after he did it.
He should have
Of course, after the play that he did not make earlier that we're referencing here.
He's so fast.
Yeah, man, he's fast. He got up, and it was his rebound. He got up the floor after that rebound and pushed the break. Yeah. And he pushed it, and that's what, like 4 dribbles right there, and bang.
Boom.
Yeah, just great play. Great play, Ricky.
I like that.
Does that deserve it?
A-Rod, dazzling dunks and basketball bloopers. That's the Ricky Council
no
story.
No doubt. So, that does deserve. Go get him, Rick, because you did win the game and you made the play. You hit a big 3, that big 3 that we were talking about.
At the end of the third quarter?
Yeah, man. Yeah. So Ricky played better tonight. 1 3, the other one that he shot, it was just offline. He missed it. It was a good look. He was open. It wasn't 35 feet behind away from the basket. But yeah, that was our strong and wrong tonight, Ricky, on that one play, man. There's a lot going on in this one.
There was. We knew it was going to get weird, and it got weird.
All right, player of the game. We talked about him a ton, and we have to get the graphic up there to let everybody know that it was, in fact. Despite Tyrese Maxey's 29 points and his 21 in the second half to help close out the game, Yabusele was consistent throughout, and he is our player of the game. 21 points, 5 made threes, 8 boards, all 4 of his free throws. He was fantastic tonight. And again, as we found out from a lot of people, he's MVP for the season so far for a lot of folks for this 15-win basketball team. Our player of the game is brought to you by no one.
Nobody.
All right.
It would have been nice if somebody can splice over a little after he blocks Koulibaly to win the game. Maybe the Sixers should use that.
That little
It's the sound effect on a Yabu block. Usually they had a sound. I mean, they actually shouldn't do that. That's probably bad.
Yeah.
But never mind. I'm going to stop talking. Anyway, love Yabu.
Love Yabu. Absolutely, man. All right, listen, folks, we got to get out of here. They won the game, 109-103. And we said win the game. They did. It wasn't pretty. By any means, it wasn't pretty. They did get it done in the first half. We were like, all right, in the third quarter, there were some things there. They're going to put their foot on the gas, not let up, and they're going to blow this team out. But give credit to the Wizards for fighting back. They played in the second night of a back-to-back. They did not give up. They were missing Jordan Poole as well, and Malcolm Brogdon also, Alexander Starr. They were same thing. They were shorthanded as well, but they didn't quit. But the Sixers did walk away victorious and winning their 15th game of the season, and the Wizards still just 1 win on the road. That was another thing, man. It was like, don't lose to a 1-win road team. What are you doing? They almost did.
Maxey and Yabu down the stretch said, we're not losing.
No.
We're going to come close to losing, but we're not losing.
We're going to come close to losing, but we're not losing. All right, let's get to our world famous.
Let's do
roll
it.
Call. Let's say goodbye and thank you to a lot of people here. I got a lot of people to thank. We got a lot of people to thank. Money Mar. What up, Mar? We appreciate it. Eugene Ross in there. What up, Gene? Mom's grandchildren. We know. Talk to you later, Mom. Winona. Hey, Winona. Jeannie in there as well. We appreciate Jeannie as always. Bootszilla. Boots says ugly wins count as wins too. At this stage of the season, yes, they do. Yes, they do. They really do. All right, Holy Cannoli in the chat. Prophet 1, Jerry Sinclair. What up, Jerry? We also have PHLY in the building. Hey, Aaron, Aaron, what up? F. Chillaxin. Like, that's interesting. I like chillaxin.
I like chillaxin.
Yeah.
Maybe it means something different.
Yeah, but we like F. Chillaxin,
fine chillaxin
in the chat, so we appreciate you. Kyle Wright, Doug Craig, what up, Doug? We also have Jerry Sinclair that we mentioned already. Who else do we have? Mellow 3 Point, mentioned Holy Cannoli. We got X-Man. What up, X? As we see you in there. Vix is talking about the 0.6 of a second in the chat there as well. Mary Overfield, we thank you, Mary, as always. Fresh Prince 215 says, go get Markelle Fultz. If he's not banged up, it wouldn't be a bad addition. Derek Bodner, who's that guy? We saw him in there. Bernard McCoy says, I'm out. This town does not deserve Maxey. These are NBA players. I'm out.
Come back, Bernard.
Bernard, don't leave us. You know
Don't
we
leave
love you.
us.
Sid in there. We saw Sal. Hey, Sal. I, Gavini. And a noob. Who else? Larry K. Mix in there. We got a lot of people that we saw in there tonight. And we thank everybody. AC Filla in the chat as well. Doing some big things there in the chat for us tonight. Mr. B and Twan as well. We thank everybody for hanging out with us. Make sure you go like and subscribe the show. Our super chatter, James Alexander. James, thank you. The turnovers changed the momentum. He also said there with the second super chat, they certainly did.
They
got away from
tonight,
protecting
yeah.
the basketball there late. But make sure you go like and subscribe and make sure you hit the bell icon. And when you do, you get the alert that our show is upcoming. And it sounds like this. Not like that. Sounds like that. Damn. When it's time
I've been
for
so good recently,
showtime.
too.
Absolutely. All right, we'll be back
I'll
at
put a lot of work in for Friday.
On Friday
I'll be
for
better.
the Pelicans. We'll see if Joel Embiid and Paul George
I hope so.
are listed as
You
questionable.
saw Zion Duncan last night.
I don't want to see that on Friday. Well, it's good to have him back, though. You want to see everybody healthy. For Rich, Bree, Chris, Kyle, and Derek, I'm Devon. We are off tomorrow, everybody. We're off on Thursday. We'll be back for the Pelicans on Friday, taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. Enjoy your Thursday. We'll talk to you Friday, 6:30 sharp, right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast, presented by our good friends and our sponsor, Bet365. Good night.
We all silly like the mayor.